Okay, everybody, welcome in. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network and welcome to our guest. Hello, Deborah. How are you?
I'm doing well this morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so glad the sun is shining. It feels wonderful in my soul and on my body. I cannot wait to get outside. I need a little sunshine on my skin. I'm very pasty.
So my white legs, like I'm heading off on holidays at the end of August. I gotta say, I do need some sun on my legs. I gotta.
Yep, I hear that. Yeah, you start to feel like, oh, you're glowing more than the sun is glowing. Myself, anyways, I'm like, I spent a lot of time when I was a kid outside, of course, running around and had no problems with getting a suntan and always had that kind of skin. And then suddenly, since I was not well, I did some time indoors, quite a bit of time indoors. And yeah, I'm like so pale. I can't even believe who I am. It's okay though, right? It's all
Nothing,
good,
nothing little bronzer can't help, right?
right? Yeah, need a little glow. Oh, bronzer. That's a good idea. Okay. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about you. Okay. So why don't you tell us where you are in the world and a little bit about who you are?
Well, thank you for asking. So, currently living in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, which is wine country, orchard country. But I actually grew up in Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, and that was home for many years. We've only been up in Kelowna about 3.5 years, a little more than 3.5 years up here. So my husband grew up in the area. I have one sister here, another sister at the coast. So, but mom, after dad passed away, mom moved up here. So we were always up here for the last 20 plus years. So it felt like a second home. And this was, I really love this area. It's beautiful, beautiful air, birds and crickets. And, during the day, you can see the stars at night. It's just tangibly less stressful, just very peaceful.
That is the truth. I can concur with that. I lived very near where you are and also grew up in the Fraser Valley. And yeah, there's a certain vibe about Kelowna, that area that just has that feeling. It just pace is a lot less slow. It just mellows out, and yeah, the traffic is not crazy. So it's a beautiful place. That probably would say why you look like you're relaxed. You look like you're happy. Every time I see you on Facebook, you're just like, yep, living life, loving every moment of it. So it's
It makes a difference, I have to say. It was probably one of the better decisions that we've made. We moved during COVID, which was kind of a tough period to do that in, but it worked really nicely as we were renovating and, creating the home that we really wanted. And yeah, it's beautiful. Love it here.
awesome. Awesome. Well, that's how it should be. We should be happy and healthy in our homes, wherever they may be. I think that's creating your own little sanctuary and being happy where you are, and then it makes your work nicer too. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in the world?
So thank you. I help my clients get noticed, known, and remembered for all the right reasons. And I started my business 34 years ago. I was very heavily into the personal growth and development. So, as of today, probably over 47 years into personal growth and development. And I started my business as a makeup artist, and then I moved into image consulting, dress and wardrobe. But through that process, mindset was very much a part of it. And I was aware that the clients that I was working with, whether it was the females for the bridal party, or whether it was executives or business owners in the business world, when I was physically grooming them for promotions or to look more professional, the mindset piece, the confidence piece was really important. So what I discovered was that for many of them, there was not the congruency, the thought process, the feelings, their habits and behaviors were not in direct alignment with the position that they were aspiring to attain, or the position or the image that they were wanting to project. So this was very much a love and passion of mine, and actually after 34 years still is. I love helping business owners and executives thrive and grow and get promoted, and actually be the very best versions of themselves, and to really step into and own the leadership characteristics and qualities that are necessary to run successful businesses, and to be able to develop really powerful teams, really great collaborations. And it's a true passion, but what I really see is the results that people can attain through that. and it is essentially unlimited in terms of their potential. They could
Right?
essentially
Wow.
get what they want.
Right? Teach them how to like know what that is first, I guess, and then unlock all those doors. And I have to say, your earlier career, like not the makeup part, but the dressing up and all that stuff, I can totally see that. Like your makeup too, obviously you look beautiful, but your some of your pictures that you have on your Facebook, they're so professional and so beautiful and so well done. No wonder that's that fits, yeah, it fits
Thank
you perfectly. Yeah, it's
thank you.
lovely.
So, hey, a little powder, a little bit of lipstick, but oddly enough, actually no mascara today or anything. So, my lifestyle is pretty clean the way I'm living it. But obviously, if you're going to have professional photos done, it pays to have the full makeup job kind of thing, and representing who you are, and not necessarily the inauthentic version of you. So, I like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, really stepping into who you want the world to see you as, or, bringing that inside feeling of who you are to the outside. Because yeah, we want to look like we feel. Because we can walk around looking depressed and dowdy and all that stuff, but as soon as you put a little bit in intention into it, and decide that you want to pick yourself up a little bit, it really does something. Putting on some different clothes and doing your makeup sometimes, right?
It does. Actually, it elevates you. I actually find that if I'm speaking or I'm doing any training, even though I have my home office and I'm working from that, I put my shoes on, and the shoes actually make a difference in how you work. Right, we can tend to, the leggings, the sweats when we're doing the home office thing and run around in socks. But I find that dressing up a little bit makes all the difference in the world in terms of how we're going to perform and present ourselves. And also, it really helps to clarify the mind. You're really setting the stage for the thought process and how we're thinking and we're feeling. So we're elevating our emotional state. But we show up differently even when we put on shoes. So some of these little physical attributes that we're paying attention to make a huge difference in the presentation.
Right. Yeah, that makes me feel like when you set the intention to meditate, even, right? You're setting that intention. This is what I'm going to do. You put on those shoes, I'm going to work, even though you're in your own house. That's okay. But yeah, that really does it does something on the inside, that you just, one small thing, putting on a pair of shoes, can be the whole change in your day. You hold your head up higher, probably sit at your desk better, talk on the phone in a different way, all those kinds of things. I totally appreciate that. That's amazing. So when you work with clients, like what would you do? Like where do you begin?
So obviously we want to see where the client's at currently. So when I'm typically working with clients, the very first stage is I'm saying, okay, what's going on in your life right now? What's actually happening in your life right now? And do they like the experience or they want something different? And in the process of attaining a goal or even writing down the goal processes, people often don't go deep enough. So it is part of the languaging and the questioning when I'm approaching a client or asking a client, what do they really want? What's really important to them in their lives? And how would they feel? So that we're going back to the emotional state. We're tapping into the visualization process of imagining if they had something, what would that mean to you? So while having something or even generating more income in a business, it's not so much about the income in the business. It's really what that means for them and what it can allow them to do and what types of experiences it's going to give them. So we have to dig a little bit of a deeper process. So I always start with the goal process of what's happening with them and what's going on with them. We're digging into specifically the limiting beliefs around what's happening right now, how they're specifically self-sabotaging, because people will, in most cases, they're self-sabotaging, but they could also be sabotaged by other people in, whether it's at home or in the workplace environment or in the business environment, if they have team or they're working in a business or corporation environment. So we need to address like what's blocking you from moving forward. So that whole essence of self-responsibility is absolutely huge. How do you navigate some of the challenges and issues and conflicts that you have in your life so that you can move closer to more of what it is you want and less of what you don't want? the types of experiences that we have. So a lot of that is done with the mindset piece. I would say that's a good 80% plus of success is how we're thinking, how we're managing our emotional state, our emotional regulation, and being able to notice that emotion that we're feeling in our body and to adjust it very, very quickly to get a different experience and a different outcome. So I'll give you an example, which is a lot of people think like, you actually did this when you were a teenager. But I used to go into my room and I used to close the door and I'd sit on the floor and I'd close my eyes and I would imagine something hilarious. And then I would actually burst out laughing. And then I'd close my eyes and I'd imagine something incredibly sad. And then I would start to cry. And then I'd switch back to the happy one, make myself laugh. And I kept doing it and going back and forth so that in less than a minute, I could go back and forth to one emotion and the other. And the practice of this is important. It's important to build the neural pathways in the brain, but it's important to understand that we can fully control our emotional state based on what we're thinking about and what we're seeing in our mind. So to create the shifts that we want in our life, to attain the goals that we want, and to get the results that we want out of life, you have to be able to vividly imagine or to be able to utilize and put yourself into that emotional state that is attached to that emotion. So this is all about the becoming part of it. So as the famous speaker author Jim Rohn said, he says, success is not to be pursued. It is to be attracted by the person we become. So we actually want to become the person that is the one that's going to attain the goal. So a lot of times people are striving and they're working really hard and doing the things that are necessary to attain a goal, to achieve a relationship of their dreams, to release, 10, 20, 30, 50 pounds or more in their life, or to get the ideal career or the ideal business. And then they think, well, then I'm going to become this really successful person. Well, no, mentally and emotionally, you have to become first and then you attain it. And it's a very awkward kind of discussion with people initially, because a lot of people are going, how do we do this? And I think probably the best representation is a story, if we have a little bit of time, that I could share about how I met my husband. I always love this process because a lot of people go, well, what does it take to really have a lifelong marriage? So most of my friends were quite a bit older than me when I was in my very early 20s. And I was watching a lot of them. They were already married and a lot of them were getting divorced within a few years. And I kind of looked around and I went, I don't think I want this. Like, this is not the experience that I want. I do want to get married, but I actually want to be able to attain things in my life first before I get married. So I wanted to delay it. But I actually wanted a lifelong marriage. Now, we don't always get control over that if a spouse happens to pass away. But I wanted that love relationship where there was the full commitment. So when I got serious about wanting a partner, I actually wrote down all the lists of like all the guys I had dated. So I actually took out a few different pieces of paper, which is a fabulous exercise that the audience could use or relate it to another type of goal that they want to attain. I wrote down what it is that I did not like about each of those individuals or that relationship, and then what I did like about it. But I also wrote down, who was I and how did I show up in each of these individual relationships? Because sometimes we show up as a super confident person, very independent, and other times we show up very weak or needy and lacking that confidence and hoping the other person is going to love us because we love them, and we're not really understanding what true love is. So clarifying what I did not want and what I did want was a huge step in the process. Then what I did was I started to look around at successful long-term relationships that were usually, my parents and other couples that were friends with my parents. What made those marriages successful? And I was writing notes down. Now, it didn't mean that I was going to have the same type of a relationship or would do the same things, but it was simply a way of gathering information that I could consider those concepts or ideas and either choose to accept those and embrace them or reject them. So again, we're all on our own journey and path, right? So once I refined the list of what I wanted, I went even further. And I actually wrote down a physical description of what I wanted in a partner. which was 5'11", 6 feet, blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin, reddish brown mustache, like 175, 180 pounds. I got pretty specific. So specific that I could actually see the person and recognize them if I saw them across the room. Then I took the list home to my parents one evening. And I said, okay, here's what I'm looking for in a partner. And I'm reading out this extensive list. And they both just kind of looked at each other at the table and said, Debbie, you're going to have to lower your standards and your expectations. And I kind of like, it caught me by guard, like off guard. I'm just kind of like, and then I just sort of paused and I went, I don't think so. So anyway, time to go to bed. They head off to bed. I head home. But on the drive home, I had this epiphany. And that was, who do I need to become to attract this person into my life? So if I wanted a loyal, committed relationship, I wanted a loving relationship, I wanted to be an independent person, both being very comfortable in our own skins. We could be comfortable together, comfortable alone if he was off fishing and I was off doing my thing. And then we come together and have this great conversation. But we were there as true friends, supporting each other, obviously as lovers, and having all those great elements of a marriage. And asking the question, who I need to become, was the next step to take. And obviously it took a little bit of time, but I was very discerning each date that I took. I actually had one date, and then I would review my list, and then I would kind of go, nope, not the right person. I would say, great meeting you, but I'm looking for a long-term relationship. Wish you the best. Move on. Like shopping for a pair of shoes,
Yeah, you're not going to buy a pair of shoes that don't fit right.
Yeah. So ultimately, I ended up finding the partner, and literally he fit all the criteria. Everything that was on the list was there. And so I always say, be careful what you ask for, because I actually, I wanted to marry a man who had 2 children, and I had decided not to have any children of my own. And that's what I got. And then it wasn't well into the marriage that I went, why did I decide that I didn't want to have any kids? And I had to, 2-3 months, I had to ask that question several times a day until it actually uncovered. And that came from a decision that I made in my very early teens. We had a nanny growing up, and she had lost her husband and only son in the Second World War and the Russian Revolution. And the picture on the wall was her son. And I asked her one day, like, who is that? And the despair in her face of losing her only child touched me so deeply that I thought, I don't want to feel that pain. And it was in that moment that I made a decision not to have children. So why is this important when we're setting goals? We often will have belief systems or decisions that we make about things, and we need to be careful about those decisions, because sometimes they come from very early, when we're very young children or teenagers. We formulate a judgment or an opinion or a belief system based on an experience, and then we carry that forward into our future. So this is part of the unraveling of how the mind works, and what makes a difference in being able to get what we want out of life or not getting exactly what we want. So these are some of the things that I love, like the whole mindset piece, mindset, neuroscience, quantum physics, the Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff. That stuff all works. And I know that it works because even before I had read about and heard about Dr. Joe Dispenza and quantum physics, I was playing with those things when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, and how the mind works, which includes even teaching myself to ski. I was only on skis once, doing the Buddy Hill thing on Seymour Mountain in North Vancouver. It was 2 days before we were going again. I was 16 in high school, or in junior high. And for 2 nights in a row, I closed my eyes and I imagined myself parallel skiing, and even going over a 1-foot jump and landing perfectly. This is when you're in the theta brainwave state before you drift off to sleep. And the second time I went skiing, I went down the back face of Seymour Mountain, all the way down without falling, parallel skiing.
Wow. Wow.
It works. So people, when they're playing with their brain, you use your brain, it is massively powerful. And so now we have this potential. We have this potential to be prosperous, we have this potential to actually live out the dreams that we're really wanting and to take off the limitations. And I think that's really important to have a really happy life.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. I love what you're doing. I love your work. I love the way it flows in with the different parts and pieces, even like the dressing part and the Joe Dispenza part and the, really getting into your mindset. Plus also you did it. You did it yourself. You wrote your list. You found your husband. Wasn't it his birthday yesterday? The day before? Happy birthday to him.
No, that was my sister's birthday. He had one in June.
I saw somebody's birthday was on your site recently. I'm like, oh, happy birthday. Anyways, happy birthday to your sister also.
Thank you.
Yes, just how you've married your work with different pieces. And yeah, it sounds so interesting. And I think a lot of people might be interested in working with you. So if that is a possibility, how can they reach you?
Perfect. So they can go to my website, deborahreynolds.com, which is DEBORAH, and then Reynolds, REYNOLDS. Or what's very cool, if they want to actually have an experience working with me for free, I'm actually doing a challenge next week, which is the domain name is prosperitypotential.com, prosperitypotential.com.
That's fantastic. And that starts next week. Okay, we're going to put that in the comments with your other information so that people can connect with you. And you said it's free.
It's free. It's a 5-day challenge. It's about 75, 90 minutes a day. There will be replays, so they'll have a chance to do that. But usually I'm doing a challenge once a month. So it's awesome if they just register, even if they can only attend a few sessions, they'll get some really great value out of that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Interesting information, I'm sure, that people will receive from there. I love what you're doing. I love your work. I love how you present yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice to get to speak with you. Um, like, I talked to you one time, we had a little chat, but I feel like I know you in some fashion because I've, been following you along on Facebook. And yeah, it's really nice to see that you present as you are. So, who we see on Facebook is who you really seem like you are. So that is
The
beautiful.
authenticity part of it is huge. I mean, that's the real part where we get to really connect with people, which is very important, that we want to build that into our lives.
Right? My goodness. Okay, women of the Women's Wellness Network, we will put all of Deborah's information into the comments, including the link for her challenge coming up next week. It's free, so why not? If you've got some time, or even if you don't have much time, she said there's a replays. So prosperity potential?
Prosperitypotential.com.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I'm gonna check it out myself. So thank you very much for coming, Deborah. It was really lovely to have you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what else you're going to be doing.
Thank you, Tammy. My pleasure. Lovely.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Women of the Women's Wellness Network, until next time, be well.